shit. Driver highlight for Reese.
Let's go. What's up, everybody? We are live here with Reese. It's good to have you, man, and obviously great to have Herbie and Brandon is here as always. Um, I think you are the oldest guest, if just from the gray beard there that we've had so far. So welcome, Grandpa, into the show here.
Yeah, man.
Can I give you a
Crazy
little
start.
finger? Can I? Like,
Yeah, I think it's only like
That
7
was
seconds.
wild.
Yeah. No, it's perfect.
that was great. You just from the rip. I'm
Getting
like
into
chop them
it.
down, boys. I
Yeah.
actually respect that.
Well, you know,
Because I had nothing for that comment. You know, I have no snappy comeback. You caught me completely off guard.
well, it's let's be honest here. Although I will say, I think you have the biggest TikTok following of anyone I've interviewed as well, though. So it's kind of a, gets you a little younger, I think,
Yeah.
and it's back in the States. What do you think? Hey, you can still keep your job going.
The kids think I'm hip. You know what I mean? So,
How do you
I
even
honestly,
make
I
that
didn't even
work?
realize. I mean, obviously, I heard that they were gonna ban it
Yeah.
or ban it, and
Yeah.
then I was busy helping my dad with the family business.
Yeah.
So when it all went down, I woke up and I was busy doing all that. So by the time I went and checked, it was back. So like, I was like, oh, all right. So I guess nothing like
Right.
nothing really kind of developed from there. But like, yeah, the following on there has been really good, and it's all those it's a very different demographic over there for sure. But it's
Yeah.
I'm happy it's back. You know, what I mean, I like it.
Mhm.
I don't
That's
really
awesome.
understand what the beef was with it, but I mean, like, I was just too busy
Yeah.
with drifting stuff, so
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
I get
Well,
flagged for inappropriate or dangerous content on there for every video I post. Even
Really?
even a seto, they flag that too. They say
I
that
don't know.
that's a dangerous
I
content.
thought they were gonna flag when I had the footage of me going up the mountain. I'm like, oh, for sure, this is gonna get flagged here. And
Yeah.
right now, they just kind
Nothing.
of maybe it's because of the following. They're like, oh no, he knows what he's doing. Let's put him on.
Yeah.
Might be the account type. you know?
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that it might be the account type. You're right. They probably
Yeah.
looked at it and they're like, oh, this is what he does.
yeah. Well, I
I'll
mean,
have to
it's an
keep an eye on
interesting
that.
starting point for the discussion because, like you said, TikTok's different, and different things do well on TikTok. So, like, you want to kind of explain why TikTok made sense for you in the first place, and then kind of what you use it for.
So I really just got on TikTok. I'm pretty sure I got back on it in 2019,
Okay.
and everybody thought it was a joke. Like everyone, like I remember, like even Bruce was like, "What are you doing? Like this is stupid,"
Right.
you know. And
It was
I
like the time
remember
of
I was at my
Thriller,
buddy
too.
Saroon's apartment at the time, and at one point I was like, "Man, I really should just like take this a little bit more serious." And it's definitely its own thing over there for sure. It's definitely its
Mhm.
own thing. It has its own demographic. The content that I do on there is vastly different from what I do on IG. And that's not like I say content very loosely because it's not like I have a scheduled thing like everyone
Right.
else. It's just like when I
Mhm.
do it, I do it. If I feel like doing something funny or whatever, like I'll do that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
But there is differences between the two platforms. But I think it's a really good avenue, and I really think that like I remember there was no drifting on TikTok. Like I
Right.
would type it in and nothing would come up. But it's cool that it's grown into such a platform that really has kind of showcased more sort of sim drifting, and
Yep.
then me capitalizing on being the bridge for them to get into drifting in real life because I'm a little bit more welcoming and stuff like that, like in person and stuff. When you're like, I guess out of character or whatever, I'm like,
Right.
hey man, you're paying me, so like I gotta teach you. I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So it's been cool to see all that. Like I really appreciate it, and I like how it's kind of lawless right now. Like you can almost say whatever. I appreciate that for many reasons, so
Right.
it's cool.
No, it's a different thing, and like you said, you see a lot of sim drifters. You get to see a lot of sim kids nowadays, and I mean, obviously, we got two big sim guys sitting right here on the pod. Yeah,
This is Brandon. I'm here.
yeah.
Right,
But do you see the improvement in like your school, for example, or in the kids that you do see driving because of the sim drifting?
100% yes.
Okay.
In the beginning, like I wasn't really sure how it was going to kind of like how they were going to move over or like how
Right.
it was going to really happen, but I was kind of open to the idea.
Yeah.
And then one comes in, then another comes in, and like usually at my school, people come like the first day and the second day, and then like I'm like, yo, you're good. You should go get a car.
Right.
Like that's pretty much how it works with me. And for the most part, like it's really I've only seen people like maybe once or twice, and then they're either getting a car or they're too young and they just keep coming back because they just can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the kids that come from the sim world, like they're like on day 2, and like the stuff that I got to teach them is like
Yeah.
not the mechanics of like letting go and doing the technique. It's more so like when you feel this momentum,
Yeah.
that should be a trigger for when you need to do a technique. And like you can't get that on the sim.
Right.
Right.
So like building momentum and feeling it build up as you're taking a corner and knowing when like, oh, I wound my car up enough so now I can flick and let that energy. You can maybe get it through the wheel a little bit, but
Right.
like I'm not saying it won't get like that, but from what I've seen, like you can't replicate that part of real life
Right.
drifting.
Can't
So-
feel the G's and the momentum.
Yeah, the G's, everything, and like how that translate and like how does that play a role in like what you're doing and how you're
Yeah.
going to tandem with someone, or should you dive in the pocket or not. And that's what I kind of do. Like the sim guys come to me and they're like, I see them drive, I'm like, yo, this is great, but it can be better, and let me show you how. Like try this or try that, or and then they're like, okay, this works, this feels good, like let me keep on doing this, and then it just kind of goes from there. So I'm all about it. I think it's great. There is some bad habits that come out of it sometimes, in my
Okay.
opinion, but I think they kind of learn they have to kind of change their driving, not style, but like
Mhm.
throttle modulation, and they have to realize that more than likely when they get a car in real life, it's not going to be a 600 horsepower car that you have in the sim.
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
But they all do really good. So everybody that I see, I tell them, like, if it's in the cars and you have the budget to get a sim, get a sim.
Yeah, no, and I personally like driving the slower cars because it feels a little bit like what I drove with my other car. So it's like
Same.
I can kind of, and like the cool thing is I have a local track by me that is really hard and technical for a new guy, but I'm able to now put 200 laps, 300 laps on it. So the next time I go back, I at least have some muscle memory of where I'm supposed to be and all this kind of stuff. And it's really cool because like you can now find whatever your local track is and then go play it for a couple 100 hours or 100 hours or something in that. And then when you go to an event, you've already got the first steps of like where you're supposed to be at least or where you want to be. And I think that's a huge like helpful tip when it comes to that stuff as well.
I think so too. I think that the visual cues that you're learning through sim and just a lot of like just all the techniques that you're going through, it could only help. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I think anyone that comes to me and has like, I don't know, over 200 hours, I'm just like, all right, this is going to be a piece of cake. We just got to polish you up, And
Right.
then
Yep.
they like it because now they're like, now they understand forward bite, side bite, and like how does that relate, or when I should adjust my dampening depending to what track I go, because the grip level at this track is different from this track, and like the temperature is different here, and like what do you do like when the sun goes down, and like you don't do that, you can't, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so they're like, oh, all right, cool. So they're more into it because
Yeah.
now they know how to drift, and then they can apply it and they can feel the difference, and that's what I've noticed that they get really pumped about.
Well,
Like,
yeah.
and some of them go the competition route, some of them just go for the grassroots whatever, and then the other ones like doing like really stylish stuff. So like the kids kind of like everything.
That's cool. Well, Brandon, do you have a comment on like kind of what is coming in the sim world? Like what's new? Because you're kind of on the cutting edge part of that.
Yeah. Well, first question I wanted to ask, do sim guys ever have I guess an issue with mechanical sympathy at all, like hopping into a real car from the sim? Because the sim you can just, bash whatever, you don't have any consequences. So has that ever been an issue or not really?
No, that's really haven't been an issue for me. I mean, I think more so it's because the people that come to the track really respect my equipment and the school cars that I have at the school. So I really haven't had any of that. I think what happens is a lot of the sim drivers come, and when they feel even just like the 230, 240 horsepower in the 350Z, they kind of just like, whoa, all right, that's new. And I'm like, yeah, like, and if you don't control that, like, that could hurt you, you know? And so I think that kind of happens very quick. I never really have any sim drivers that like freeze in the moment. They kind of feel it and they're like, okay, and then they look over for reassurance, and I'm like, nah, you're good, man, you got it. And I'm like, go a little bit harder. I'm like, this is as far as I need you to go. And then they start realizing like, okay, this just kind of falls together. So mechanical sympathy for me hasn't really been an issue, and I'm really grateful that everybody respects all of my stuff. So when they get their own car, they get crazy. That's true, and more power to them. But
Yeah,
thank you for everyone for respecting my stuff.
that's cool. Yeah, no, I mean, you were telling me, Brandon, how there's like new stuff that they're trying to simulate tire compound a lot better now. In that whole side of the whole sim
Yeah.
side's just trying to get a lot better.
I think like on the sim side for like competitive aspect is getting really good. Grassroots stuff still needs some work. Like a lot of it feels pretty like numb and you can't feel like
Okay.
preload stuff like you could just whip it back and forth and it's just like whatever. But like the more competitive and advanced stuff, like there's certain physics such as like VDC, like the cars I drive where if you set your monitor up correctly, that sort of thing, I kind of feel like, like I could see it in like my eyes and through the wheel, like, oh, there's momentum, that sort of thing. And then, yeah, now more recently with new stuff, there's, you're getting a lot more emphasis out of the tires when it comes to forward bite, side bite, car setups becoming a lot more relevant where you make toe changes, damper changes, and that will affect how the cars drive. Because before it didn't really matter too much. Now it's like a huge difference. It's actually relevant to tune your dampers and your suspension and all that good stuff. So I think the sim world's definitely moving in the right direction when it comes to drifting and that sort of thing. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to see the people transition, through Reese's
Yeah.
school. Hopefully
Exactly.
they're just like this, and it'd be
Yeah.
cool.
So
Yeah.
do you want to just do like a quick beginner for people that don't know what is the school that you run real quick?
Well, it's Drift School Evergreen. It's in Drums, Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
I started giving lessons there in 2018, and it's really just an arrive and drive. So you come to the school, you have an option of either a 2 hour lesson or a 4 hour lesson, and full rentals in there. Everything's included, tires, like I said, arrive and drive. You get in there, and we are straight jumping into drifting. We go over a couple of things, and it's from that point on, it's like everyone kind of has a different learning curve, and that's why I enjoy doing one-on-one private lessons, because everyone, you kind of have to cater. If you're going to get good results, I feel like you have to kind of cater the cadence of the lesson based off of their skill level. Some people are good,
Yeah.
some people have no idea what they're doing. Um, and your job as the instructor is to kind of like figure out, at least in my opinion, is to figure out what they are doing good and then build off of that. And that's pretty much what goes on there. But I mean, my whole goal is to get them to understand like the initiation and at least getting like a 2 turn combo, and then you're gonna start moving on to there based off of their learning curve on what you should do.
Mhm.
But definitely just arrive and drive. Like, you rent a car, you learn to drift.
Yep.
Either 350Zs, G35, or a couple BMWs that I have, because those are the most relevant cars right now. Like
Yep.
90% chance, if you're gonna get into drifting, you're probably gonna fall into one of these chassis right now.
Yep. Mhm.
So that's why I have them there, and they're pretty basic setups. So then this way, when you see them, you're like, oh, okay, I could do this. You
Right.
just got to learn how to set it up, and I also offer that as well.
Do you let them pick the car, or do you have like an idea in mind? Okay, this is probably going to be the right fit for them. Like, how do you choose what car you use?
Honestly, it's whatever comes up in rotation. Since
Okay.
it's pretty much like a one-man show, and I do have some help from a couple of my buddies. Um, and I do it that way because it's able to keep the cost down, and like, it's expensive to like privately rent out a track and like insurance and everything that comes with
Mhm.
it. So, you try to find ways to do it. So whatever's available is what's pretty much out there. But usually if they come back for a second one, I try to like swap up the chassis or something like that.
Okay.
Or if they were happy with it, you kind of see what's available and what goes on. But You know, I wish I could like sit here and have a fleet, like a whole bunch of cars,
Right.
but
Yeah.
you know, you also have to kind of be smart with it as well too, and you
Mhm.
don't want to like bite off more than you can chew business wise, and that's
Exactly.
kind of where I'm at with when it comes to the availability of that.
Cool. Awesome. We got some great questions in the chat here. Just a quick shout out. Celine Drift. Reese is awesome. I met him in Virginia at the first U.S. Drift of the season a while back. Can't wait. Thanks for the comment, buddy. Local Serial. I would love to hear Reese's opinion on Iron Drift King and how the judging experience went in 2024. So I guess we can get into some of your different
Your
ordeals around the world
expeditions.
because
Yeah.
you also for those who don't know, you're a Formula Drift judge now, which I feel like has been a long time coming. I feel like, um, but you are now officially like obviously one of the 4 Formula Drift judges, if I'm correct, right? Yeah, it's
Yep.
4. Okay, but before we get into FD, why don't we talk about some of the Iron Drift, for example, some of the stuff you've been doing overseas.
So I went to the Iron Drift King competition that they had over in Germany,
Yeah.
and it was an amazing experience, you know, because I get to go over there and I'm like representing America, right? And you have judges from all around the world, and there was a total of 6 judges at this competition with like 100 and I don't know how many battles, or I lost count. You know what I mean? It really tested your concentration and everything. What was great about the experience is that they had everything. I mean, they had input from like drift masters. They had input from the Irish Drift Championship. They had input from the virtual guys. They had like every judge there had an input. And what was really cool about the experience is I remember we kind of did a dry run where we kind of picked 8 battles, and we decided to, without even having a drivers meeting in our head or discussing how we're going to judge it, we're just going to raw dog it and see how we compare and what our opinions are based off of like these 8 battles. And this was like, I don't know, battle from 8 battles from Drift Masters from like 2018 or 19 or something like that.
Okay.
So whatever, we end up doing the judging and we submit everything in, and we're pretty much like 95% all in agreement on everything. This is without even having a conversation about like how do we judge or everything. So that was really cool because like I'm really happy that like, you know, people give me so much credit for being a judge, but it's like when you go over to Germany and you're talking to all these dudes, like these dudes have been in the game like a lot longer than me, you know. We're
Really?
talking like Vernon like goes everywhere, judges, like that dude's a judge. Like that dude just judges everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
You know, like everywhere. I think he did like 35 events last year that he judged. Like I don't know how do you even like,
Wow.
you know what I mean? I'm like, what? Like, yeah, like you know what I mean. And then it's just so much that's there. Then you have Kieran, who's like the OG of OG, you know, judges from Ireland and stuff like that, who like saw like Connor and Jack and the Shanahans and the Deans and James. So he was there for all that. So it was really good to get his input and kind of ask questions. So like for me, that was the best experience because I'm like, all right, cool. One, I know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? You do this dry run, everyone's like respecting you. And the coolest thing is that they all told me, hey man, I know you're a rookie judge, but everything that we see that people say about you on the internet, like we have all dealt with the same thing in our countries. It's just that people in America don't see what they say everywhere else.
Yeah.
Or it's in a different language or something like that. So, and I told them, I'm like, I appreciate it, but like those comments don't really bother me. It's just like you at this point,
it's the nature of the sport.
You know what you're getting into.
Yeah,
So like it's either
you're always
you
gonna
got tough
piss somebody off, no matter.
Yeah,
what.
I'm not going to be everyone's like favorite dude in the world, and I wasn't before. So like, what has really changed? Like whatever. You know what I mean? Like this is my job. You know, like Sorry.
Yeah, I don't hate you. You just sucked. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, it's cool. Like you can have your wrong opinion. That's fine. You know, it's great. You know, go for it, bro.
It's true.
That's awesome.
No,
Damn.
but yeah. So like actually judging the competition seemed to go pretty smooth. Like there wasn't like too much in terms of like debating, or was it, or because like obviously I feel like that you guys would have differences of opinions because of maybe there are different driving styles, I would say,
Right.
from America to Europe to Japan, and it's pretty, I would say, drastic. I mean, it's like pretty stark contrast when you see like a Kazuya Taguchi or a Manoa come around the track versus a James Dean versus a Matt Field. Like they all drive differently, in my opinion.
So when it comes to, let me just like say it correctly, because like
Yeah.
there was a lot that went into that. With Germany, what was different was the judging system was different. We would judge the lead run, and we would also judge the chase run, right? And you would
Okay.
give a number for that. So like 1 out of 10,
Oh, okay.
like, and then you would, like, if you had a 10, if you had a 7, then you would swap, and then you would put them together, and then the end result
Who gets the
would
higher
be how
number?
we'd come to. And I liked the system. It was cool. What made it very simple and made it less stressful is that you have 6 judges. So your vote is split in half when it comes to like that.
The value.
I don't want to say importance, but the weight
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
And everyone had really good input. Everyone gave really good perspectives respectfully from what they saw and what their position was. So it was very smooth. The whole judging experience was smooth. It was very well explained. The drivers meeting was really well explained. The drivers had all really good questions. I don't really feel like there was any issue. Again, I don't speak German, right? But like, I don't think there was any issue when it came to any of the calls. I mean, I heard of a couple. I heard the last one, there was controversy. I think it was on the last battle that they had. And then I remember we did have a little meeting discussing it, but it was a high level judge call. Like there was a lot going on that you had to unravel. So I could understand how that, I was going through that. I'm like, well, I've been here before. It's like a high level thing. You have to pass judgment, right?
Yeah.
And I just kindly told people, like, you may disagree, but it's a judgment call. So there is not a right or wrong. It's a judgment call.
Right.
And you have 6 people up there. So when you have 6 judges up there, it makes everything kind of smooth, very smoothly.
Yeah.
The camera angles were on deck. I think we had the same system that Drift Masters had.
Okay.
So they were zooming, going down. They had bird's eye view. Like, it was fantastic. Everything was right there, and there was a lot that went into it. I don't know how much, but there was a lot of effort put into that event, and everyone that's associated with it, like, did a fantastic job. Like me and Jacob, because Jacob went out there with me, where I went. He already been there, so I went out there and he kind of showed me around, and it was amazing. Like the people were great, the enthusiasm was great. If you guys get a chance, like, go, because like they're doing it at some old like mining place where there's all this iron buildings.
Yeah,
Looks sick. Yeah.
It'll never happen in America. No shot. No shot. It'll be an insurance nightmare.
Yeah.
But like over there, they're doing it, and they're like it's on an island.
Yep.
It's like it's rad. It's rad. So
one
it's
of
like
the
everything about
coolest
it.
Things ever. Yeah.
Everything about it was great. Everything was great. The judging
That's cool.
experience was great. The system was great. It was
That's awesome.
yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
I can't say enough good things about it. And they're going. Drift Masters is going
Yeah.
back there next year now.
Are they? Okay, sweet.
Yeah.
Like that's
Very good.
I was kind of bummed when they left because I always love the footage from that area. It's so sick. But
Yeah.
So I guess it kind of leads into some of the Formula Drift judging and kind of that original question of like, how do you judge drivers in Formula D, for example, that drive differently, like the guys I kind of listed, or do they not drive that differently than you would consider, like for a Manoa or a Dean or a Field? Because I feel like they all kind of combat things a little bit differently.
Yeah. So the easiest way to put it, that I think is the most well understood, is they're all going to have different maybe approaches,
Yeah.
but the criteria is still the same. Like you still
Okay.
have to fill the zones the same way. You still have to run this, a certain line. You have to transition a certain way. So that all stays there. How they go about doing it, like how they decide to load their car,
Yeah.
or however their suspension is set up, I think that's going to driver preference, which I guess we can translate into their selection and driving style, how they decide to go. Like obviously Manoa drives very different from Field.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think that's going to change the judgment of it.
Okay.
It's just more so like, okay, this is how you're going about doing it, but you still got to fill out this zone. You
Right.
still got to hit that inner clip. And how smooth and how fluid are you going to be able to do it? And when it comes into the chase position, like how well can you adapt to the criteria that is given?
Yeah.
So I don't think that's going to play a really role in that. I love that everyone drives a little bit different, and there's like there's a little spice in it, because if everyone was exactly the same, I think it, in my opinion, I think it'd be boring. But
Right.
that's just me, you know.
No, it's
True.
true. It's true. A good question from Malik here. How do you handle the pressure from the fans and drivers? You kind of answered that a little bit earlier, but like, it just doesn't get to you really. It's a
No, I mean, like, again, I think I'm just really lucky because born and raised in Philadelphia. You're kind of you're used to like the Philadelphia Eagles fans and the Sixers fans, and like, everyone's like rude, and like you develop to have tough skin. And my background before drifting was basketball, and basketball, especially in Philadelphia, playing street ball, like there was playing the sport, and then it was like you have to trash talk, or you're not going to be able to stay on the basketball court in the playground.
Yeah.
So like transitioning, yeah, it's just not, it ain't happening.
right.
So like transition into drifting, like most people are passive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's true.
So
Very.
like I'm the one that has to kind of tone it down sometimes, because like ain't no drifter gonna shake me. Like I'm just like,
that's that was actually one of the questions I had. Do you have to change the way that you talk to people from different regions that aren't from Philly, for example, or the East Coast?
yeah. I mean, I think that's a respect thing. I think early on when I went out west, and I visited somewhere different or down south, like we could come off a little bit rude and stuff like that. But I think with experience and with maturity, you kind of understand, like, if I'm going to go out west, or if I'm going to go down south, or any place where people have way better etiquette than like the East Coast Northeast does, you should kind of like adjust a little bit, or not. I mean, it's up to you. It's a free country. But I mean, like, depending what, based off
Yeah.
of what I do, I think it would be in my best interest, and especially now from a business perspective, it'd be a better interest to be like, hey, the end goal is like, no one cares that you're from Philadelphia. Like, they care, like, we're here for drifting. So like I definitely try to adjust it, and over the years, I like to say I've toned it down a little bit, unless it's appropriate. Like, you'll turn it up, you know what I mean? And you just got to be real and be honest with people. But I think for the most part, people appreciate it. But I do try to be respectful and adjust depending where I go, and I try to read the room.
Gotcha. Yeah. No,
Oh, yeah.
we're getting a bunch
Good
of questions
approach.
about FD stuff, but I want to hit these questions from the school before we branch way too far off from the school, because we're already starting to do it. So, what's the biggest driving mistakes you see people making? I would assume just a general new driver. What's the number one thing you have to tell everyone, you think?
The number one thing I still have to tell people is letting go of the wheel.
Yeah.
They'll go into transition, and then when they let go, they end up grabbing it too quick.
Or even like
Or-
trying to like slow it down, not right.
Yeah, they kind of
like-
like
like
again,
trying-
it
I would
this
do
is
that,
based off
yeah.
of how I have my car set up, where like
Mhm.
they'll smoothly transition. You just have to trust it.
Mhm.
I think that new drivers have a certain fight or flight instinct to kind of interrupt the car and not letting the car do what it needs to do.
Yeah.
And I think what I try to do at the school is kind of tell them, like, hey, listen, it's okay that your reflex right now is to like touch the car and try to fix it, or like
Yeah.
save yourself, because your body is probably telling you, like, I don't know if I want to do this right now. Like,
Right.
what are you doing? I've never done this before. But after you do it for like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, your body's like, all right, so you want to do this. So let's create a reflex for it. Like, this is just
Right.
how I'm seeing it. And then eventually it just becomes like this rhythm that they pick up. They become comfortable. They start breathing, because sometimes people stop breathing. They hold their breath as they're doing it. I'm like, oh, dude, you gotta breathe a little bit, bro. Like, breathe, bro. Take a drink of water, breathe. And I get it. They're excited and stuff like that. So that's what I would say is letting go of the wheel, and throttle modulation. Those are like the two basic things that I always say all the
Right.
time.
Interesting. Phil says, Sylvia, when I drove your school car for the first time, I felt like I was going so fast, which I'm sure is like the comment from a lot of people when they first drive. But then he asks, how often should people take classes even after they get their own car? And I don't know, do you need to, or would you do like a tandem course, or like is that a thing that people would or is it
I
just
mean,
kind of learn?
I have
Yeah.
done it, and it's like with people like I've driven with Phil because he came to my school, and like
Okay,
now
yeah.
I've tandem with him and driven with him, and like,
Mhm.
and it's funny he talks about how like he thought the car was going so fast, and now he can't get enough speed. He has a Corvette now. And
Yeah.
keeps on trying to find a way to go faster, and I'm like,
Second gear's doing 98.
yeah, and I'm just like,
Jeez.
I'm like, man, like where did I go wrong? Like, but Phil is an example of someone who wants to go that route. He told me from the beginning he wants to compete and everything. So it's a no-brainer why he's going about it the way he is, and he's
Yeah.
finding success. I mean, he's doing
Mhm.
really good. I think he drives really great. You know what I mean? So bigs up to him when it comes to that.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and like, I think the best experience is just going and doing it at an event. And like, obviously, where you guys over in Club Blues, you guys have a very strict system of ABC class system. And they do a pretty good job of like telling you, hey, you're ready for this next level challenge. And then you go there. I know some events are a little bit looser than others in other areas of the country, but like, I mean, the biggest thing I feel like is repetition. I mean, that's the number one thing is seat time. Nothing really beats seat time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean,
It-
I think after you learn how to drift, whether if you come to me or one of the other schools,
Mhm.
after you learn, you can never stop learning, and I think
Yeah.
it's really up to you as an individual to go ask and look for that information. And I'll give you an example with myself. A couple of weeks ago, or maybe a month ago,
Yeah.
I ended up messaging Josh DeLeese and showing him my video of doing tree turn, right?
Yeah.
The reason I did that was because that wasn't my thing, and I don't claim to doing that type of driving my thing, but it's a
Yeah.
new challenge because it's what they started doing a lot more of, and I was like, that's really cool, I want to do that. So like, and then he's explaining to me and sending me videos
Yeah.
of like, hey, look into this, look at this, like this theory of how to like load your car and like use the weight transfer to X, Y, and Z and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, obviously, like I knew to a certain capacity, but like again, Josh is looking at it from a different perspective than me, and I would be an idiot to sit here and like not listen to that or try to
Yeah.
apply that to see if maybe that works. So as you as an individual, it's up to you, depending on what you want to do, right? Or what type of driving you want to do, to go look for that information. Because I think we all continuously keep learning, like anyone who I drive with a lot, or I consider someone that's high level,
Yeah.
you always see them kind of watching people drive, and like we're nerds for it. We're just looking for things,
yeah.
and like, how does this person transition to this person, and why, and this, and like that look really cool. Can I replicate that? Other people aren't into that. They just like to drive. But then there's a whole bunch of other ones that are just like, they're looking for those specific things because we want to get better, and like that's what we're addicted to, is
Right.
just how much gnarlier can we do things if we get better.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of us that are like that.
Yeah.
The entire pro field last year with Connor showing up and watching him and James tandem together, and they're like, you can get that close? Like,
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think there's a lot of trust that goes into. James and Connor trust each other a lot more than your typical battle nether.
well, yeah. Yeah.
So that is going to then produce that type of battle.
Mhm.
I know everyone's friends in the pits. Wink, wink, right? But
Mhm.
at the end of the day, if there isn't that bro trust, I guess,
Mhm.
I don't think you're going to get that. You're not going to get that battle that we all like, damn, you know what I mean? Like, it just, where those type of battles happen? In the grassroots.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because there's a common goal to like, yo, I need you to run this line, so then I can run this line, and then let's just go like a bat out of hell.
Right.
Yeah.
And like,
There's no
and
like.
I also kind of favor that type of driving a little bit more sometimes. So
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's no like breaking in some weird spots or doing.
yeah, you
doing
don't
the-
have to
do-
worry about someone
yeah.
like pulling a
Doing
trick. I mean,
some
I say
weird
it in
twitch.
pro.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like those weird little thing where it kind of messes you up. Like, because if you do that in the grassroots, it's like, bro, like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Right.
you're gonna get roasted by all of
You're
your
gonna
friends.
hear it. Yeah, you're gonna hear it from your bros. Like, yo, you messed it up, bro. Like,
Yeah.
we're going
Yeah.
a million miles an hour, and then you decided to pull that shit. Like, what are you doing? you know, playfully, right? Like,
Yeah.
but you know, in competition, it's different. You know what I mean? So I think
Mhm.
that's where a lot of that's like, you know, gonna be. Did we lose? Am I there?
No, you're there. You're there.
Okay.
You're good. You're just frozen, but you keep talking. You're good.
Okay. And so I think there's going to be a difference there, but I think like there's those rare opportunities where you'll be an FD and you shall see a battle like what you saw with James and Connor, or like Connor and like Osbo, and like,
Yeah.
and you get to see those with other guys. Like if the DA guys get together, like you'll see a lot of that. Like,
Oh yeah.
so I think
Cool.
that plays a role. You know, I don't think anybody intentionally does it, but I mean, like, you know, I think when
I
there's
think
trust there, you get to produce a lot more stuff like that.
I think I more along the lines meant though, like seeing like just Connor with anyone in his chase position, he just definitely I think shined a light on a lot of like things that everybody else could be doing in a way. Even though he did get dinged for it, like not matching angle all the time, but that was something also that now he's learning
Mhm.
that FD is looking for as a judge, mini call or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's it. It is definitely something that I mean, he did get dinged for it. And honestly, I just think it's like an adjustment period where he's like,
Yeah.
okay, I really think it's not even like, oh, it's this series or that series. I think the biggest, a big difference in in the series that he's driving in is the layouts. You know, the layouts are completely different. The radiuses are different. So I think that's going to play a role too. But Connor is an amazing driver. So like, when that dude gets into the groove, like, I don't know, like, you know,
Right.
like that dude's really, really good. So I mean, I think it's just going to be a really interesting year to see that dude go out there and like really press and put pressure on a lot of people. And I think that's really good for the sport, and it'll just produce better driving and
Hell
make
yeah.
people push more too.
Cool.
Yeah, I think he created a ton of better battles, just like people watching him. I think everybody else turned up
No,
due to it.
100%. Like,
But
and like you see, but like it's also a different style of driving. Like you said, he doesn't always match angle as much, but it's the proximity for Connor that's the important thing, you know.
Hmm.
yeah.
And you can see that's how he drives. Oh, there he is.
Oh, he's back, baby.
You can.
I mean, he's
Back
You
up.
here.
can't.
Oh, I gotta. Now he's upside down for
Oh yeah,
me.
now you
Oh,
got
now we're
yeah.
right side up.
Yeah, that's right, baby.
Boom.
Woo!
There we go. He's back. But yeah, I was about to say, but yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I just went black. He's fine though. You can still hear him as long as the mic works. That's all that really matters, right? But I was gonna ask, kind of going back to the school, is like what is your end goal with the school? Do you have like an end goal that you'd want to get to, per se?
Um, look, I would love to sit here and say that I'm going to be one of those places that where like I'm going to be around for like 20 years or something like that. You know what I mean? Like I would love for me to say that, but the reality is I'm always looking at what's going on in the scene, and I think we've reached a really high point of drifting. We're at a pretty high peak, and from a business point of view, I'm definitely trying to figure out, you know, what is the next 10, 15 years going to look like?
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
I don't know. So because I don't know, I'm very careful. So my goal right now is to at least make 10 years. And then after 10 years, or when I reach 10 years, kind of reassess what's going on. And if I think it's still worth it to keep going, I'll keep going. You know, if I think the business dictates that. And if not, I mean, I would probably shut down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With those types of businesses, can you sell them? Is that something like in the cards for that sort of thing, like exiting
Be
that sort of
tough
thing, or
because
is it
he's
just
the
shut it
teacher,
down?
you know?
Ah, yeah, I see that now. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to sit here and say that, like, oh, okay, like, well, first of all, it's really hard to find someone who has the time um, to say, all right, cool, like, we're going to get into, I'm going to be one of your instructors. And, like, because then you have to produce so much workflow,
Mm-hmm.
and then it turns into something a lot more than what it is. And I feel like if I were to try to expand it right this second, because I'm involved in so many other things, like the only person that's going to suffer is the student, because they're not going to get the quality of instruction that I've given everyone else prior to.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's right. So like I'm just going to kind of go at this rate, and like I said, try to get to 10 years. And I mean, I think the ultimate goal is to try to like really produce as many shredders as I can while I'm here. And I'm think I'm doing that. So
That
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've driven his school before, and I can tell you it was a lot of fun. And honestly, it was super easy. Like not gonna lie, your cars are like super nicely set up. When I tried to get into my BMW that I have here, I'm like, it doesn't self steer at all like that. I mean, and that's just probably an alignment thing, but it was just how the car was set up, and I didn't want to change anything when I went and drove it, and I was like, I have to like actually like anticipate instead of just letting the wheel catch basically, and drive it differently. Yeah. But
and again, there's some people that like, I'm assuming, like driving that way. I
Yeah.
mean, like
mhm.
the way I set up the cars isn't like, I'm not saying it is the way, but I think
Yeah.
it's like a good starting point. And I think over time you're going to develop your interest in what your driving style is going to be.
Yeah.
And then as you get educated on what you can do and what type of settings you can run, you can start venturing off on your own. So like what I try to do is just to try to create a good base and a
Yeah.
good foundation, and kind of give them all the tools that they need, and then just kind of see them fly away. And like I said, I've seen them go competition,
Yep.
grassroots, keep doing sim, like they
Yep.
kind of do it all. So the fact that I can help that, that's a goal in itself.
Yeah. We got another question from Phil here. He asks, do in-car cameras help judging? If you had access to them during the battle.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
Drift Masters has those, I believe.
Yes. I think they're a huge plus to have. It's something I'm asking for.
Yeah.
For sure. And I hope I get it.
Yeah.
I don't know the ins and outs of like, because you can ask for something, but I'm sure there's a process, some corporate whatever,
Right.
to make
Mhm.
it happen. Or not like, sure, it was just, I can only assume. Right? So you have to tell someone to do something, like, isn't it right? That's
There's
how
a
it
whole
works.
chain of commands. and-
Yeah, right. Like
yeah.
it's big boy stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not like,
Even
all
though
right, dude,
there-
just do it.
Even though there is a GoPro sponsor and the whole shebang, you can't run
Yeah,
it
yeah,
360
yeah.
anymore.
So
this,
I'm
that, the
sure
other.
I'm sure there's a proper way to do it. So like,
Yeah.
I'm definitely pushing for it. Like I think it would have made, let's just say, I think it would have made everyone's life a lot easier last season.
Right.
For sure. But when you don't have it, you're just kind of like, all right, like this is what we got.
Mm-hmm.
Don't shoot the messenger. And meanwhile, we're full of bullet holes, but it's all good.
This is an interesting question. Celine Drift asks, not to put a driver on blast. You could put any driver here, honestly. He just says Odie, for example. He's a master at playing the game. Do you penalize strategy even if it didn't cause a collision? And I feel like that's a super vague question to ask, but it's the hard value of like, you know what the driver's doing in a scenario, but it obviously didn't cause an accident or it didn't cause a zero. So it's like, how do you judge that?
If I'm understanding the question correct,
He said brake
For
checking,
me-
for example.
yeah, no, I don't. So this is the issue with that.
Yeah.
I brake checking, I think, is like the worst cornball shit anyone can do.
Yeah.
On purpose, right? But there is moments and there is times where in the driver's meeting there's a discussion that is had,
Yeah.
and they decide whether it's allowed or isn't going to be allowed. The reason I say they decide is because we've asked the drivers.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, and if you guys remember back, I said this somewhere else before, but there was no back, I think 2 years ago or something like that, or whatever
Yeah.
it was.
At
like,
Irwindale.
Yeah, at Irwindale.
Oh,
And it was discussed. Like someone said, hey, listen, like, can we please use the left foot brake, because then we can't stay up high on the bank. And so all the drivers agreed on it. And I wasn't a judge at that point. I was just a spotter.
Right.
So I was like, all right, cool. So even I was like, all right, whatever. Like, if your cars weren't so gripped up, maybe I wouldn't do that. But all right, whatever.
Yeah.
So like they agreed on it. And
Yeah.
then the whole event went through, and then they crucified poor Novak because they didn't understand that was allowed. So I think there's nothing wrong with it. I think there's always needs to be a discussion of like what is allowed at that current round.
Yeah.
I think,
Mm-hmm.
and I think moving forward, I think it's just good to kind of like maybe just let the public know, like, hey, at the drivers' meeting, we had this discussion, and this is what was agreed upon. Because there was a lot of moments from the outside looking in, as a judge, I'm just like, man, if we would have relayed this information to someone, like maybe they wouldn't. But I think what happened is everyone, the fans, have now gotten smarter and they understand drifting a little bit more.
Yeah.
So it's not just like, oh, we're gonna go and watch these people like drift around
Right.
and throw up smoke. Now they're interested and they're asking questions, and I
Becoming
think
passionate and
yeah,
getting
which is great. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And
yeah,
everyone's
Yeah.
entitled to their own opinion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now they're asking questions, and I think now we're just gonna have to step up our game and be like, hey, listen, at this drivers meeting at this round, this was what discussed. And the more we include, hey, what's going on, instead of like, oh, they'll figure it out. Not saying they have that attitude, but I'm sure
Yeah.
that's what it kind of feels like sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so I think we're going to kind of fill in those holes the
Yeah.
best way possible, and then hopefully have a better result.
Yeah, because
We've-
like obviously
talked-
you guys hop on the mic every once in a while, but I wouldn't say it's like a very common thing when you're
Mhm.
judging. I feel like this is just a feeling. I don't have any factual proof of this, but I feel like Drift Masters, there's more interaction with the judges and with the live stream, for example. So I don't know if it's the way that they talk about it. It just sometimes there might be more clear of an explanation, because like obviously you do the explainer videos after the events, but like
Right.
unfortunately a lot of the people that are upset don't go and watch YouTube afterwards. It's like
Thank God.
it's like but it's like I've always been an advocate of like including a judge as much as possible, just even if it's obvious, just to literally lay out the rules, because I feel like and this is just my opinion, the biggest challenge of drifting is the knowledge base you need to understand all of the nuances, because it's a pretty steep learning curve. Because there's a lot more than who's closer. There's a lot more than like, oh, he made the most smoke, but that doesn't mean a whole lot really in the thick of things.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a steep learning curve, and I feel like as if we can incorporate teaching moments as naturally as possible and as many times as possible during an event, I think it would just help get people more interested in the sport, just that much more. But that's
I
just
think you're right.
yeah.
I think you're right. I think more information that's conveyed and given to the public
Yeah.
is always a good thing. I think you're right. There really wasn't too much talking to the judges.
Yeah.
That did kind of change in Utah,
Yeah.
because it was spoke about how like, hey, we should start explaining a little bit more.
Mhm.
So there were small adjustments being
Yeah,
made.
cool.
And
Because
hopefully it'll be
here's the
amplified more.
challenge, like your announcers are supposed to be kind of not really picking sides and like explaining why this guy could win in this scenario, or this guy could win in this scenario. Like I remember talking to Dave Egan, and he's like, yeah, that's kind of like what he does, is he picks a side, and then his guy usually picks the other side, and then you just throw both arguments out there explaining to people. But then if they just go and pick a decision, it's always nice to get confirmation. Yep, this is why we thought it was this because of this, and so that's the hard part, because I feel like an announcer doesn't necessarily tell you exactly what actually was the reason for the call, and they almost add to the confusion because they give the scenario on where you could go either way, if that makes sense, because that's not really their job. Their job is not to judge. Their job is to kind of possibly explain what's happening, if that makes sense.
No, I can understand maybe there might be some confusion due to enthusiasm sometimes, based off maybe how we do things as Americans over here, with how we like, there's like, oh, this happened, and like, oh, doctor, and like all that, and like, this is where like, so me, that I've been into drifting for a long time.
Yeah.
If I were to hear the announcing, I understand pretty much what's going on.
Right.
But maybe that's not everyone,
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm saying. I think we're coming into a point where it's like, hey, maybe we should kind of reevaluate how we're going to get this information to people, because like we can't just assume like everyone's going to understand everything. And I think there needs to be a valiant effort to like really walk people through it step by step.
Yep.
it may be kind of jaded for some of us because we're like, well, this is basic knowledge, but not for everyone, just
Nope,
for a very small
100%.
group.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's where we would have to make really good efforts, and I think I think we are. Even
Mhm.
myself doing like the breakdown, I watch it back. I'm like, I could have worded it this way, or I could have done
Right.
this, or I could have done that.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's all those things that end up coming up because you're just trying to like make a large group of people understand
Yeah.
what you're trying to say, and you're trying to find a good neutral way to get that information to them. And
Right.
if I'm thinking about doing it, I can only assume FD's on the same boat because we have those conversations with Ryan Sage and stuff like that on like what can we improve. And like Sage, a lot of credit to Sage because that dude's on the forums or he's on the internet all the time, like responding to
Right.
people, and like that dude's in it. Like he sees what people are saying, and like I don't know how he puts up with it, you know, but
Yeah.
such a nice dude, you know what I mean? But
Right.
he's in there just
Exactly.
like going at it and
Mhm.
explaining because he cares, and he really, really does care. And I applaud him and the entire staff for kind of blocking the negativity and just
Yeah.
saying, yeah, no, we hear you, but like, how do we make it better?
Right. And
that's what I see.
yeah, and from my opinion, if you guys do a better job of explaining from the initial point of when something happens, when everyone is watching, then they get the context then, instead of trying to find out in the comments section later. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that you hopefully, I mean, obviously nothing is ever going to be perfect. There's always going to be two sides to an argument, but that is a possible way that could theoretically help in the future or make it worse. Who knows? But we did get a question here, and I don't really want to cause any riots or fights, but I just wanted to ask, who makes the best cheesesteak in Philly?
Right now, if I'm gonna get a mainstream if I'm gonna get a mainstream cheesesteak,
Yeah.
it's probably gonna be Steve's Steaks. But like the new up and coming cheesesteak that I really like is from this place called Stella's.
Okay.
It's like a pizza shop, but it's like it's amazing. So like if you look hard enough and you look up for like Philadelphia cheesesteak spots, top 10, eventually one of those lists will have this place called Stella's, and Angela's really good too. And like there's there's a lot. You can't really go wrong getting a cheesesteak in Philly. So I mean, like you can roll the dice, and for the most part, you're going to be all right. Just don't go to Pat's or Gino's. Like it's just don't go there.
Gotcha. Malik asks, what's the most valuable lesson you've learned from students?
Oh, good question.
Wow, that is a good question.
Yeah, it is.
The most valuable lesson that I learned from my students is to really appreciate the opportunities that I have to do what I do, because every day, you hear people complain about, oh, I gotta go to work, I gotta do this, but these dudes come in so happy, and my job is to like introduce them to this world of drifting. And the fact that that is my job, that is what they kind of humble me every single time, because I get to see the birth of like this addiction that they're gonna have, and they kind of keep me in check, like once you do this for so long and you get the privileges to go do and drift all the things that I've gotten to do, and with the trips and like the people I get to do it with, and you can sometimes get a little lost in the sauce out there, and like the students do a really good job of genuinely bringing you down from that cloud and grounding you again, so you can appreciate how awesome it is that every day you can honestly say like your job is drifting.
No, that's a good one. That's a good answer.
I mean, you're embedded for life now, virtually, dude. You got your own little pizza plate, or no? Isn't that which stand are you at?
It's a cheesesteak.
It's a cheesesteak coaching spot, so you can get coached. And I'm like, hey, you hungry, bro? Like, you give them a cheesesteak.
You need to go faster, okay?
I was just driving around it. I was like, yo, look at him! Look at this guy.
No, it's great. Big shout out to BC Racing and Cody for kind of including me into that whole little bit. It's really cool to kind of see that type of stuff. That was awesome. Compression Canyon is definitely dope. I drive it a good bit. I mean, it's cool. It's fun to see it. They're like, oh, there I go, dude. Like,
that track is fun. That's a fun one.
I had a lot of fun. It's a big track though. It's like it's easy to get lost.
Yeah, it's a big track.
D-Rocks says, as a sim drifter, when I drifted in real life for the first time, apart from it feeling crazy fast, it felt almost identical to me, which is really cool to kind of hear some of that feedback. Phil, what is the most common mistake even pro drivers make? And I have an answer for this one. It's they drive their cars too grippy.
Yeah, everybody does that. Like that is a universal thing. That is just everyone. That the grip that it is ruining drifting. It is just ruining. It is ruining it. I just don't even know how else to explain it.
Yeah.
Like you want faster. Understand inertia. Understand momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Like go learn that. Like that grip stuff. Like I just don't. I mean, you guys, we all see it. Like, well, I don't know why we're
That's
so
true.
scared. Like,
Amen.
someone gets
Yeah.
on throttle and immediately they shallow up like 3 lines on the inside because their car's towed in like fucking 2 inches or whatever. I just don't.
It's definitely
I just
not
don't
as
understand,
bad
dude.
in the pro, but the pro spec is just it's abysmal to watch most
Yeah.
of the time.
Yeah,
It
Everyone
is
grips
really
cars
sad.
up too much.
it's not. It's just not fun to watch. I just don't.
Mhm.
But yeah, that to answer your question, it's people that overgrip their cars. Maybe they're obviously in the pros, they're doing it as a last ditch effort. There's a lot of money on the line, so they're trying to do whatever they need to do to win. So like,
Yeah.
I don't really get on their case too much there, but I mean like, but then I do too because like I want to see good driving and like,
Consistency is key. And if you
yeah,
can't do
yeah,
that,
and fluidity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they all talk about speed, and I'm like, yo, speed, yeah, that's cool, but like, who gives a fuck about speed if you're not deep in the zone and you have a lot of angle and you're following the line? If you can do all of those things and you're fast, props, awesome.
Yeah.
But if you're sacrificing one of those things for the sake of speed, you're corny.
Right.
Like you're corny. Like do all of the things and go fast. Oh, I can't go that fast if I do all the things. Well, that's your limit. Figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, right? We want to see
Correct.
fluid driving. Anytime we go see a clip, pull a clip where you're like, that was the sickest Fires run. I bet you it's a clip of someone like managing all of those things.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But they like the internet or the culture wants us to like, no, you should just let this slide. Nah, dude, like we're not gonna let it slide.
Right.
Go kick rocks. Like, be decent. Wash your hair. Come on.
That's the type of
I'm trying, man.
That's what we're gonna
Oh, dude, that's too good. I hope they got that.
It's true. I mean, it is true though. Like, I mean, it is one of the biggest challenges to competitive drifting, and why a lot of people would never want to go into it, because it is almost just sideways drag racing at points, and
Yeah.
that's why I like the team drifting aspect. In my opinion, is what the most pure form of drifting is team competitions, because
because 100%.
it's you're not competing against people, you're competing
to showcase the best performance.
Exactly. And so that the ultimate form of car control, and you're there to help your buddies on your team basically, and that kind of is like where the most pure form, in my opinion, is like drifting, because it's not I'm trying to outdrive this other guy. I'm trying to help a team drive as best as possible.
And I think for some of us, and I've always said that, but now I try to make sure that I say, for me, that is the purest form of drifting, because my introduction to drifting was that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I understand and I respect, little Tommy or little Jimmy who comes to my school or whatever. And like their whole understanding of drifting was watching, Von Gittin Jr. or Chris Forsberg. Like if that's what they saw and that's what they were like, this is so cool. And like I understand why that's what they want to be, because to them, that is their connection to their golden years of like, this is what I saw. This is what I want to be. So it's cool that drifting has grown that much to open up that avenue. I think some of us will be quick to say pure, but pure, that can get blurred a little bit. Perspective is life. And for me, purity is going to be my perspective, because that's based off of what I came up watching, and yourself, of what you've seen.
Yep.
But, for some of the other guys coming up, we have to all understand that their perspective is different, and that deserves respect too.
100%. No. It's cool. It's cool to see just obviously the different elements that you can get involved with drifting and like the different forms of competition,
especially in America. Like
Oh, yeah,
I've said it
dude.
before in another one. Like you could, if you're into drifting, like this is the place to be. Like you can go anywhere, you can practice anywhere. Like I don't understand why everybody argues about it. This is better than this. Who cares, bro? The fact that you can even do it is like a privilege. You understand? Like that's another thing I learned when I went out to Germany and I talked to all the European dudes, and when I went out to Dubai and I talked to those dudes, or any place I go overseas, it's just like you guys can drift every single. And it's true. We are so spoiled in America because we can drift so literally in real life we can drift so much.
Right.
Like if you're getting into drifting right now is like the time to do it.
Right.
Like you can do it in real life, you can do it virtually, you can, you know, car X racing on your phone when you're on a train or something, or on your, like you can do RC racing. Like there's events everywhere. You can fall asleep, wake up in a different country. Yeah, a different state. And it's like, oh, let's go to this drifting event.
Yep.
That ain't the normality for the rest of the world, bro. That is us.
Yeah. So I'd like to do like a little world tour with you, if that makes sense, or like just kind of talk about some of the different locations you've gone to for drifting, and some of the just differences you've seen. Like I know obviously South America is very close to home for you. So like let's just start off in South America. What's it like out there?
Well, specifically in Colombia, which is where my roots are at, they're just up and coming now. They just started developing their own actual events that they do monthly, where they can practice. So they're at for like the Americans, right? They're at the stage where, okay, cool, we got a parking lot now, and we can start practicing at this parking lot. That's the stage that they're at.
Gotcha.
And they're getting better. I think it's been a full year since they've done that. In March, they're getting their official first invitation to use a go-kart track.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So they're slowly starting to make their way. They are like C+ class at this point, maybe.
Yeah.
You know? And they're probably going to stay there because the economics and everything.
Yeah.
So speaking on the economics, that is a huge thing for us. I mean, it's a huge thing for them.
Yeah.
You know, all of those countries, like, they're going to get taxed if they order things. You know what I mean? Like if they order coilovers, like they're going to cost X amount, but then they get paid. They have to pay more because of the tax. Like, so that all happens down there. That's been happening down there.
Yeah.
So like, so the economics of it makes it, you have to be kind of more up here economically to afford it. So it changes what bracket of people are doing it there. Right.
Yeah.
Every country is going to be a little bit different. Obviously, there's going to be like your homegrown hero that comes out, but like it is really big, more so in southern South America, like Chile, Argentina, Brazil.
Yeah.
Like their scenes are starting to grow more and more. And like Chile has Franklin, who's like an amazing driver, who has such a big popularity, such a big pull in Chile. And like you have Drift Sudamerica that's over in Argentina. You have Super Drift. You have Ultimate Drift Brazil. I went to Brazil to go judge an event, and it was like, imagine a soccer game where they're saying "ole, ole, ole," but drifting. Like they're doing the same chant.
Yeah.
But everybody's drifting.
That's
And like there's fireworks and people with the Zulu, boom, like all that. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here, dude? Like, where are the penalty kicks? It was amazing. And all you have to do is go, and everyone's cooking barbecue. It's
That's
there's
cool.
a whole other world out there. You know what
That's
I mean?
cool. Yeah. So are the cars different down there, or did they get different stuff down there, or like what was kind of the normal stuff?
So depending what country you go to is going to dictate what you're getting. So Colombia doesn't get like really a lot of they don't have 240s or anything like that. They have like a lot of BMW stuff, so that's pretty much what's there. And they have like a lot of old Corollas. So anybody that's into like
86s.
So yeah, forget about the Corollas. You know,
Yeah.
forget about the Corollas.
They actually don't have any. It's crazy.
There's a lot of BMWs over there. You know what I mean? Obviously, every country is going to have a little different thing. I will say this: in Venezuela, they do get 240s. There's a lot of them over there. Good luck trying to get them out though. And they're like, we're talking maybe $1,000 with like CAs and SRs. There's like 350Zs out there for like $500. The reason why is because the way the prices are over there, they can't afford to do maintenance or even get tires for these things. So they're selling them for hundreds of dollars.
Wow.
But good luck trying to get them out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Chile, you're gonna get they get everything over there. Like I
Okay.
think Franklin was driving like a Safaro.
Oh,
Oh,
what?
Safiro. Yeah,
Safiro?
one of those. Yeah.
He was driving that for a while. Now he's driving a one of the Dodge like Hellcat things. Like he
Oh,
like put an
yeah.
angle kit on it, and he's doing that. It's 6-cylinder though, so it's not a Hellcat.
Huh.
So he's doing that, and then you'll see a lot of BMWs and everything over in Brazil. So you pretty much see a lot of everything over there, but in the southern part. Once you start
Okay.
going north to the top of Colombia, depending what the government has put in place when it comes
Yeah.
with importation, is going to dictate that. If you go
Gotcha.
higher, you'll go to Panama.
Mhm.
You'll go to, they have their own thing over there. A lot of drifting goes on there. Costa Rica has a lot of drifting. Dominican Republic, if you go into the islands, they have their own drifting thing. A bunch of dudes that come out of there. Obviously, you have
Wow.
Castro.
Yeah.
Puerto Rico has started off doing a whole bunch of things for years now, and they still do it.
Mhm.
One of the other islands does it a lot. I forget what it's called.
Yeah.
Mexico currently has one going on as well too. So there is
Okay.
stuff going in Mexico. I don't know why more people don't go into Mexico and go drive down there. Like,
Really?
I don't know exactly where it's at. I don't know that whole bit of it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot going on over there. It's just, when have you heard about it?
Right. No, it's hard, and
Yeah.
like the only times I ever do get to really see it is when you go down there and go do an event or go judge something, and so that's why I kind of wanted to hear from you, like because there are so many different cultures down there, and different scenarios for different countries, like you said. There's so many different legal scenarios down there and whatnot.
Dude, it is just be grateful you're here right now.
Yeah.
Like if you're into this sport, just be happy you're here right now, dude. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, and obviously down there too, it's like
I think we lost you again there, Reese. I think you're here, but your camera is out again.
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
You'll figure it out.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Russo's good for that stuff. But
he knows a thing or two.
I'm gonna leave him a Yelp review and be like, dude, what was going on?
I know. I don't know if the camera just gets bored and it's like, I don't really feel like working anymore, or what it is.
Yeah, I
but,
know, right?
I mean, we're all here on our crappy webcams just because we're.
I know. Here, I try to do a better thing, but let me go to a place where it's open.
I tried using my my real camera one time, and then the battery died halfway through, and I was like, man, this is just.
It's just not worth it.
Well, I mean, in his defense too, he literally just got here yesterday, and he's flying out again tomorrow. So this was like,
Oh, wow.
Yo, let's come hang out. And by the way, I'm doing a podcast. He was like, what? So a little bit on me on that one for sure.
That's
but yeah, there's a lot of things that go on in South America. I really hope that it gets better. And it's untapped territory. Like, truth be told, like I'm trying to figure out a way that I can get like a decent car in Colombia.
yeah.
Because Colombia does have a national track, but they also have a ton of these little go-kart tracks that no one has hit up yet. So
Yeah.
where I'm at with drifting, it's like, if I could go there and go shred those places before anybody else, that's what I'm going to go do. Like, that's what
That's
I want to
cool.
go do. Like, because like then you'll watch those videos because you're like, well, no one's ever been here before.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like I get to go there and just show people all these things that they have. You know what I mean? Like, I'd love to tell you all, but I don't want to really see
Right.
the tracks.
You don't need to give away all your secrets, but
Yeah.
I
But
just
that's
kind
what
of
I'm trying
wanted.
to do.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted like a just a little window into what it's like out there, because obviously they're different. You've made it out to Japan.
No, I haven't.
You haven't made it to Japan.
No.
Okay, you were just talking about
Really?
going.
No, I've always talked about going. I haven't gone to Japan because I'm not going to go and just like not. I'm going to go there with money. Like, I can't go there not with money. Like, I got to go there and buy a car and like Chelsea tells me all the time, like, dude, just borrow my car. But it's like, you know how that is, dude. Like, I need to go just buy a car and just like go shred too. Like, I need to get that out of my system. So that's why I haven't gone. I mean, I've been offered a million times to go. And I hear all the stories, but like I don't just want to go to Abisu. Like, that's what I'm saying. I want to go with a lot of money because there's like I want to go to like the Toge thing that they have out there, not the one at Abisu, like the other one. And I want to go to so many other tracks and go do all those things because that's really what I came up watching. You know, when I used to watch all those comps and little things like that. So
if there's a guy that's like a big drift influence, the biggest drifter influence when you were getting into it, who would you think that would be?
you mean like the one driver that was like, damn, like really had an impression on me?
Yeah.
I would say it is there was this driver who his name is Matt Martin, and
Okay.
Matt Martin had it was like a greenish car with a whole bunch of stars on it from MMA Motorsports. We're talking like way back 2005, 6, 7.
Yep.
That's like, I saw that car, and that was like the first real life car that I was like, this is sick. I want my car to be just like that. So that's more so influence wise off of first impression. That's what it was. And then I had the privilege of seeing a lot of like the D1 like demos that they did over in Englishtown and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like that was another bit of like what my influence was. And then ultimately the biggest influence is when I started just going to Club Loose and just being around all those dudes. And,
Yeah.
you know, you're around Forsberg, you're around Ryan Turek, you're around all those dudes. So like that's how that kind of just transpired. But the first dude that made me go like, damn, this is sick was definitely this dude named Matt Martin that was driving for MMA Motorsports with a KAT and a hatch S13 that had like these Workmeisters on it. It looked like it was the sickest thing in the world.
Yeah.
For me, at least for me.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously you drove a lot back in your day. But if given the opportunity for like a ride and drive, for example, would you ever go back to driving, or are you kind of content where you are now?
Like just in general?
Yeah, just a theoretical question.
Or like, are you saying like FD?
Yeah, FD. Sorry.
No. So like, I never did FD.
Right, but what I'm saying is you competed though, is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah. I mean like, yeah, like I went back and I did like the clutch kickers and I did some of that stuff, and like that stuff is all cool and like, but like it costs a lot of money, you know. And like right now I do have an arrive and drive where, you know, I drive for, you know, Ed Thompson over at Cool Cat Motorsports, and like, you know, he provides 2 cars. He has the VQ 350Z and then the V8 one. And like he built the V8 one, he got it rebuilt, and it's like, you know, FD Pro Spec, all ready to go. When it's all wound up, it's like 700 or whatever, or 650, like full tilt. I think the largest tire I ran on thing was like a 295. So it chooches, but then it's like, then it's a 2-lap car.
Yeah.
So then I kind of like sat there and I told him like, hey, listen, this is how much it's all going to cost. My issue, honestly, was how much this costs to do.
Yeah.
And I came a point in my life where I was like, yo, I'm not gonna like put myself in a hole and then I won't be able to do anything with drifting. So, and then, yeah, you could go get sponsors and stuff, but like, bro, like we all know people that are doing it, dude. Like, you know how hard it is to get sponsors? Like, let's be real.
100%.
So I had enough sense to kind of be like, yeah, you know, I had enough sense to kind of realize like, I got to pivot and do something else. And like, that's where I kind of ran into you, Nate, because like the last time I really competed a lot was in 2013. Obviously I've done over a couple years, a couple here and there.
Yep.
And I even thought about doing a couple programs this year just for fun, entering just for fun.
Yeah.
But like over at Lake Erie or something like that. But after 2013, I saw how much money I spent at the Pro-Am, because back then, U.S. Drift, you had to go to 4 different states to compete for a Pro-Am license.
Yep.
And I was going against people like Jeff Stoneback, rapper Dan Savage, and I think at the end of that season, I ended up like one right behind Dan, so he got a license and I didn't.
Yep.
And I was just like, all right, this is how much I spent. And then I went into my mind like, yo, I'm gonna go into next year and dominate. But then you look at how much you spent and then what the forecast is going to be if you were to get a license. And like, I didn't have that. I didn't have that money. And if I were to try to do it and then something goes wrong, the only thing that's going to happen is I'm going to now put my family in a position where they're going to want to try to get me out, because I'm in that, I have a family that loves me.
Right.
Yeah.
But then I'm going to put them in a financial hole because I decided to make a bad decision. So that was my personal scenario.
Yep.
And I was like, dude, I'm not going to do this. So I ended up taking a little bit of budget that I had from BC Racing.
Yep.
And I ended up going to doing the bash tours, which is where I ended up seeing you.
Yep. 100%.
And I just started doing grassroots stuff and kind of sticking to that.
Yeah. And that's where I met Russo too. I met you and Russo together back in I believe it was a No Star Bash event way back when. But yeah, no, that was a good time. We do have some more questions to get to, so I don't know if you can answer this one, but Malik asks, which drivers are the most meticulous during drivers' meetings?
Um,
Who asks some good questions?
Meticulous. To be honest with you, like I wish they would ask more questions.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes, like in a lot of drivers' meetings that I've been into, like sometimes the drivers like, getting questions from out of them can be pulling teeth. I'm not just saying specifically FD, just
Yeah.
everywhere. Like people don't want to ask questions sometimes, and I feel like just I wish people would. I would
Yeah.
say anybody who isn't shy of doing that is Chelsea wasn't shy of doing that. Vaughn isn't shy of doing that.
Yeah.
But you know what? They all have good cases, and
Right.
honestly, man, like there's a lot of drivers that if they have a good case, they'll speak up, and I don't really have an issue with that. So,
100%.
but sometimes, like, yeah, sometimes I feel like they're just kind of like, all right, let me just go practice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
No, I get it. I mean, it gets early, some of the meetings, and they're just like, yeah, we just got to get through this so we can get to the car, and got a lot to do in the car, I'm sure. And it's always, I get how it is. Let's see. Phil's like, do you feel like you're selling crack in driving form?
oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
Hey, and his camera's back too. Sweet.
Yeah, it's an addiction, and I told them, hey, don't get mad, but this is probably what you're gonna want to avoid. I don't feel bad at all. I'm Colombian.
That's your cut.
Nice.
Yeah. Phil also asks exactly how many inches of toe in should we run for comps?
7.
I'm gonna punch him. I mean, there is a time and a place for that.
Obviously, yeah.
But I think there's a very small demographic that knows when to do that.
100%, yeah.
So.
Malik asks, how was it his experience seeing Chelsea grow into a championship-winning driver, and do you think you instilled any values in him to get him to that level?
I've answered this before, kind of.
Okay.
Seeing your best friend, one of your best friends, achieve something he's been trying to do. Like I remember I was talking to him about this stuff when we were teenagers.
Right.
And we always knew he was going to. We always knew that he was going to go places with this, And if anybody was going to win the championship, it was going to be Chelsea or be a champion. Chelsea's always had this drive. Chelsea's always had like this determination in doing it.
Right.
Did I have an influence on anything? I don't know. Maybe just because we've been friends and like, but like, I think more so Chelsea when I was a spotter when he won the championship, he was just open to listen to my input, and I think maybe it's not so maybe that I influenced or instilled anything in him.
Yeah.
I just think when the time came when he's like, bro, I need you to have my back, I was able to step up and give him all of the things that he needed to do, to get that win along with the whole team,
Yeah.
But I did my part, and I'm just happy he trusted me with that.
That's awesome. Malik also asks, which chassis or new chassis do you see becoming the next blank chassis of the future? I would say
like chassis as in like next, like
yeah, like the next S chassis.
The
Like
next
the chosen one, yeah.
I would say a
mean,
GT86 probably.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it all depends like what you're trying to do. If you're trying to do competition stuff, like I feel like you're maybe gonna stay with like the BMW and Z World.
Yeah, that's true.
Just because there's just so much there. There isn't a lot of like R&D or anything. I mean, I don't know.
True.
I just think that's going to be the safer route if you're doing that.
Yeah.
But if you're doing like more of like the style stuff, then like the world's your oyster. You know what I mean? Like you can kind of get whatever, and if that's the beauty about drifting. Like you
100%.
can, for the most part, you can do whatever you want. If you do it in a classy way, like that chassis will be the it chassis for you. But it's going to depend on money. And the reason the S chassis was the way it was is because it was at a price point where everyone can get it. Like I was picking them up for $700,
Mhm.
$800, $900 for years when I first got into it back in 2005. So it allowed a lot of us to get a hold of them. So I would say if I'm going to relate that to something right now, it would be the G's, the Z's, and
Okay.
the E chassis right now. And
Yeah.
I think over time with development, maybe it'll be some of the newer chassis.
Mhm.
But that we're going to have to wait and see
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, the reason I said the GT86 just because it's the new chassis in my opinion that's going to be cheap. Because I don't see Corvettes cutting any cheaper. I don't see I don't see a 370. I mean, they'll probably get cheaper.
I
But
could see
370s
Soars, like
370s
SCs.
are pretty expensive.
Yeah, I mean, I shouldn't say this,
Yeah.
but the G37 is like at least an hour in my area
Mhm.
is like the car I think you should be picking up.
Yeah.
Not because it's like the ultimate car. It's just it's a newer car.
Mhm.
All the stuff is already out there for it. It's cheap. Like I see them for sometimes $6,000-$7,000.
Wow. Yeah.
Low miles, light damage. You pick it up, put it together.
Mhm.
But like that's if I'm just trying to put something together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but I also like the BMW chassis a lot too. So like I love a good, well set up E36.
Mhm.
Like I've said it before, like if I have to do a comp or I'm in a comp, I would prefer a BMW chassis.
Yeah.
If I'm doing anything else, I prefer like something that floats around like a Z chassis. Obviously, like not like the competition chassis that I drive is out of that equation because that's built for a certain thing.
Right. Obviously.
So it really depends what you're into, but I mean, like the price point's always going to be it. In another country, it's probably a different car. You know, like in Germany, I can only assume it's the BMW. But in America right now, like it has to be either BMW, Z,
Yeah.
or a G.
100%. We're getting a couple more questions. Do you think the EcoBoost engine, RE the new SRKA, would be the four-cylinder? If so, would four-cylinder Mustangs be a viable option? There's a couple things to that, but I'll let you kind of answer that.
I think there's a lot of people that are really pushing to get that EcoBoost going.
Mhm.
I think that's going to be a learning curve when it comes to the R&D like anything else.
Yep.
If there's success in it and it becomes super reliable and people understand the formula, then yeah, maybe, you know. And
Right.
it also depends, like, you know, it takes a certain person, I don't know who that person is, but maybe a certain person to put it in a really cool car, and then they go out there and they're killing it and doing all this stuff, and then it's like you pop open the hood and it's like, oh, it's an EcoBoost.
Right.
That could help it, you know. I have driven the one that Chelsea has in his notchback, so I drove
Yeah.
that, and it was awesome. But
Yeah.
again, it's also like Chelsea's car. He has it set up,
Yeah.
so I would assume it would feel awesome.
Right.
Is every car going to feel that way? Probably not. You know
Right.
what I
Yeah.
mean? So,
Yeah.
I think any of that development's going to be good. I am interested in that Toyota engine that they were saying, like that
Okay.
3-cylinder
Yep.
thing.
3-cylinder, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm interested
three-cylinder.
to see what that. But then if it comes out, then it's like, okay, it came out. Obviously,
Yeah.
the first 5 years, no one's doing nothing with it because it's
Right.
expensive.
Yeah.
So then it's like, oh, maybe 10 years. But it's like,
Right.
where will drifting be in 10 years? So all of
Yeah.
that kind of plays a role in, you know,
Right.
where that's at.
Yeah, because
you know?
obviously the big argument for the EcoBoost is they're everywhere and they're cheap. Like,
Yeah,
that's the whole
exactly.
point, you
Which
know?
I think is a great thing.
Mhm.
But you know, as with anything, once people see success with something, and like there's like a kit where it's like this is foolproof, and like, which there's a bunch of gem sports out there all doing this stuff. Like,
Oh yeah,
but it takes some time for people to
Yep.
build trust, just like with anything.
100%. I mean, personally, obviously, I have one. And like from how I was sold, it has a power band, and like I have a stock turbo 2-liter that makes like 270 wheel and like 300 torque, and it has a power band. I was told pretty much, and I've driven some LS cars too, but it's pretty similar to like a stock LS in terms of
Right.
power band. And that's kind of what you're going for with that kind of an engine, and it's cool to see that it's also really light because it's a small engine, and so it's definitely an interesting platform. Obviously, you still got like your K series and some Honda stuff out there as well, because there's always going to be that. But
I'm shocked how popular the K series really started getting in drifting.
I am too. Like
Yeah.
you would think that would take off, but like, and I was next to someone at 100 Drifters that had one in in his FRS,
Mhm.
and it was sick and it was rad. But it's just like the problem is like maybe sometimes you see those builds and you're like, bro, when am I ever gonna do that?
Yeah.
But like when you see simple builds that are reliable, there's more people that are like, oh yeah, 100%, I'm gonna do
Yeah.
this.
Well,
Yeah.
And like there's
Yeah.
obviously in the EcoBoost world, there's people that have done that. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? But it takes more for that wave to really pick up.
right. Well,
You
and
know,
it's
we know
for
who those people are, you
Right.
know, but
Yeah.
not everyone.
right, and you got to remember when you're building a 4-cylinder car, you're obviously not building a comp car at that point. I mean, obviously
Yeah,
Chelsea's
yeah.
trying to does some comps with his, but like if you're a regular person, you're probably not building a comp car out of a 4-cylinder, because you're just making your life that much harder. But yeah, as far as like a cheap, reliable, light engine to put in something that you don't need to, that you want to go putz around in, like it's a like I said, it's an interesting option out there because SRs are getting harder to find, and a lot of those others smaller 4-cylinders they're just not as common. Or you can go and try and mess with a Subaru engine and like an FRS or something, and then blow that up, and then you'll have to replace it. So
Yeah, that's true. You know, that is a thing that has to be get dealt with. And like another thing that I've been looking at is like I'm oddly enough really into like the V6 Camaros.
interesting.
Really?
They do make like 300 horsepower out of the box.
Well, because yeah, and I'm just like, all right, well then you just have to drive this with momentum. And like there is
Yeah.
I forget the dude's name, but he has a white one, and I saw him on Instagram. I started following him not too long ago,
Yeah.
and I watch his videos because I'm like, dude, this is a V6. This is just an American 350Z.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure in the comments they're like, no, there's all these differences. All right, dude, yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
But like it's a V6 and the dude's doing something with it. Like, so I'm like, well, can you get different gear ratios for this thing? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and like, yo, they're cheap as fuck. So like,
Yeah.
so like, but I don't know how that's going to produce. What are the angle kits out there? I think there's like Blue 808 and there's
Okay.
I don't know. I think there's angle kits out there for them. I know FDF has one, I think, as well too. Like, but like, I don't know. It's interesting, you know. Like, I would love to see more of that. I've seen people with Mustang V6s. Like, again, it sounds like absolute garbage. I don't like any V6 sound. Like, they all sound like trumpets. They all sound like
Yeah.
garbage. But like,
Yeah.
if you're just trying to jump in it and you're trying to go rip and you know, and budget's a thing, which it always is. Like, I know. I think it's kind of cool that some dudes are going down that avenue. You know, because I think you would learn more how to drift with a V6 Camaro than you would with a V8 Camaro.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
I
point.
can see that. Yeah.
No.
Because
And
you have to use momentum. You
Mhm.
have to.
Yeah.
There is no
Just
not
drive
using
out of
momentum.
it. Yeah.
there's
you
no
can't
just torque
rely
to
on
save
your-
you.
Yeah.
You know. Oh, bummer. I'll just
That
pedal out of
V8
this real quick.
crutch.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I can do things with that comp car that I'm like, yeah, right. That would never happen. You put a certain brand of tire on your car that makes like over 500 horsepower. Like, you can do things that
You want to
just
kind of
would never do.
Well,
you
you
know,
wanna
I'm
talk
just
about-
like, there's no way in hell that
Right.
any of this would happen with a regular car. But
You
that's
did-
the attraction about that. You know, that's why people like doing that. So
Well,
I
you
get
want to
it.
talk a little bit about just the progression that drifting has done in the time that you've started it to what it is now, and just the technology that people have been implementing, and
I think with anything in any sport,
yeah,
as technology grows and the economic impact and the interest grows, everything's going to grow with it. So you're going to get way more cooler things for the grassroots, and then you're going to get more cool things with the quote unquote pro stuff, competition stuff. So everything is going to scale. I think culture influence and what's being shown, you know, on Instagram or
Yeah.
social media, all of that stuff plays a role in what's going to be. Like, a prime example is Tokyo Drift. Had Tokyo Drift not come out, things may have been different. We don't know,
Yeah.
but I'm
Yeah.
telling you, maybe, you know, that connection of like, you know, Tokyo Drift would have never been a conversation.
Yep.
You know, and that was our way to relate to a lot of people, was using those cultural kind of markers that we've had in our life to kind of relate things to. So
Yeah.
I think the growth has been great. I know some people may not like certain things about it. Like, for me, for instance, I don't like how people overgrip their cars.
Yeah.
But that's a very small tax compared to how awesome it is that it has grown, because
Yeah.
you're going to get some cons, but the pros, in my opinion, have been absolutely worth it.
Yeah, like you said, like the availability on just track time, seat time, parts, just like tons of different distributors, not just being like a monopolized market or whatever, just because there's only a handful of people doing stuff.
Yeah.
I feel in that circumstance, it definitely could outweigh.
And I think right now, I think over the last 10 years, maybe we lost our sight of what this should all have been. I was introduced to drifting as, like, to me, it was like skateboarding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ride the
And
wave. You ride the
yeah,
wave.
that's all. That's what it was about. And for me, you know how in skateboarding there was people that were pro skaters that competed, and there was pro skaters that didn't compete.
Yeah.
And then how in snowboarding there's people that were pro snowboarders that would compete, and then pro snowboarders that would only do backcountry.
Mm-hmm.
At a certain point, drifting was that way.
Yep.
And we kind of veered off of that. And I feel like nowadays, unless you have a license, it's like you're not considered a pro driver. It's like, no. That license says you're a pro competition driver.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of dudes that don't have licenses that rip.
Yep.
Yeah.
That they don't need the license.
Like
like
you mentioned
for what?
before, Josh DeLeese. Like he's
Yeah, for sure. John Stelish in my eyes is a pro driver. Like that dude gets it. He understands. He's there.
he gets
If I were to put him in my comp car, he may not like it because it's a V8 and it's not what his. But I bet you he'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And I'll bet you he'll do really good in it. So like, I think that's something that I hope the culture really understands, and obviously the brands and the companies that sponsor X, Y, and Z people and all that stuff, they kind of steer that out. But like, there's a lot of people that I know that don't have an FD license, and in my eyes, they're pro drivers. I mean, I feel like the whole point of a lot of people going to FD sometimes is so they can walk around and say that they're pro, and then you get invited to do all these cool things.
Yeah.
Right? But guess what? Like, I don't have a pro license, nor have I ever, and I get to do all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I know plenty of other drivers that have never done FD that aren't influencers that have also gotten to do amazing things in drifting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
So like, that is another avenue that really doesn't get any light shined upon, and then you have other people that did win, like Dan Savage.
Mm-hmm.
He won, comes out because he's like, yo, this is a lot of money. And he continues driving and then switches up his game, switches up his style. Car looks really great. And now he's ripping on the mountain.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like,
13.
so is he not a pro?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
so like, and I think that's the big thing. Like, there's people like, let me put it this way. Like, and I'm not saying everyone that's currently in FD, but all the drivers throughout the years. You mean to tell me you don't know dudes that aren't in FD that are better than some of the dudes that are?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, 100%.
Exactly. So like, that's something and that's not a bust on anyone because they're into competition stuff. These guys are into something different.
That's how I feel with like Brian Hopp coming into it this year. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, oh boy. Like, I mean, like he just doesn't really give a shit. So like that's
And like, honestly, it'll shake things up a little bit because he has a good mixture of both.
yeah.
And he's an amazing driver. Like, I've
and that's
driven
what I
with him
mean.
a
Like
bunch.
he's just been driving for so long now, and then just all of a sudden just getting into this. But like all the while previous to this year, I've always considered him like a top dog.
Exactly. And there's a lot of
Anytime
that. But
you-
like, we live in a culture right now where in certain parts of the country, unless you have that little piece of paper or whatever, like, oh,
Yeah.
you're not the real deal. I'm like,
Yeah.
I beg to differ.
Right.
Yes, those dudes definitely respect because they went through the rustle and bustle to get where they're at for
Mhm.
competition drifting. But I think for me, since drifting is like those action sports, there is a
Yeah.
difference. There is pro
100%.
guys that are in grassroots and there is pro guys that are in competition drifting. And I think there's a huge difference when it comes to that.
Yeah.
You know,
Do you think like the grid lives and the drift Appalachias, they're like kind of bridging that gap? Because like to Herbie's point, Brian Hopp, I kind of heard of him, but like with those two events and him driving his car there, that's where he really, like in my eyes, I started to see how good he is and that sort of thing.
100%. I mean, I think events like Grid Life, Hyperfest, going to Drift Appalachia, it's a different form, it's a different platform of drifting that I feel is geared more on like that backcountry or like I'm skateboarding out in like the local
Mhm.
spot type thing, and there's a certain skill that breeds off of that, And I'm happy that those events have been popping up because it really allows people to kind of showcase a different personality. For example, you have Travis Reeder, who isn't doing FD, but he's doing a lot more grid lives. And
Yeah.
like I just spoke to him and he's really happy because he pivoted. He's having a lot more fun. He's doing crazy driving. He's been on the mountain. He's gone to Laguna Seca. He's doing all of these things.
Yep.
And he's having
Yeah.
fun. You know
Getting
what?
probably more seat time than ever. Yeah.
Yeah, arguably. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, arguably that may be the case. Maybe there's some competition drivers that get a lot, but I would like to say like the group of guys that aren't pro competition driving right now, that are like really big on the grassroots and have a high skill level, are probably getting way more seat time and hours on the clock in a different form
And more
than
content.
what's going on over here.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that has to do with money and like there's a lot of differences there. You know,
Yeah.
that's why I don't think one is better than the other. They're just different, and I think more people need to accept that. But just because you can be pro over here, I do think you can be pro on the grassroots
Yeah.
side, and there should be
Yeah.
more respect. You know, I just think the word grassroots gets thrown around. It's like, no,
Right.
it's a thing. Like we know who the
100%.
Rippers are. It's
Yeah.
like an unspoken thing,
Mhm.
and I'm happy that there's events that showcase that. You know,
I
100%.
finally
Those
got
events
to
still
make
get-
it. Oh, sorry, Brandon. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, like those events still get like numbers on social media, and like I was gonna say, like I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, but those events you have to be invited to them, right? Like for Grid
yes.
Life, you could register, but then you have
Yeah.
to be invited, like through
You
your
have to be accepted.
registration, so-
So like
Yeah,
it's like an application
accepted.
process. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You can't just show
which
up.
I think is, I mean, so think about it. Again, I just use skateboarding and snowboarding as an example, right? Let's use snowboarding. If you're going to do some crazy gnarly backcountry video that has nothing to do with competition, you're going to invite somebody with you. But guess who?
Yeah.
What? You're going to invite people that you know. I'm going to be able to showcase the gnarliest thing doing that. And how do you get to that? You have to build a reputation by going to your local tracks, putting the time, putting the media. Yeah, like the drivers do what they need to do, but if you don't have like a good media person behind you that's going to put you out there, like no one's going to see you. Before
Mhm.
it was the magazines, and before
Yep.
that it was like mixtapes or whatever that you would see in long form. Now, you know, this has all changed, so you have
Yep.
to adjust to what's going on, and you have to build yourself up. And then if you build a good reputation, you will get that invite to come here. Why? Based off of merit and based off of your skill.
Yep.
And to me, I think an invitation like that, because it's like you are that good, like we need you, that's better than just showing a piece of paper or something like that. You know what I
100%.
mean? Like, hey, I'm going to
Yeah.
leverage this for that, no matter what it is, whether it's FD or wherever it's at. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like we know who those dudes are that rip, and they deserve their spot.
And
you know?
Drift Appalachia is just a perfect example of like picking and choosing, not necessarily the biggest names, but just the guys that they know will rip on the course. Because you want to just I don't know how you would do it, but can you want to just give people just a general perspective of how dangerous a Drift Appalachia event is and compared to a regular drift event, or just the level of driving you have to do compared to your average like circle track course or something like that?
Well, I can't compare it to like you mean like a
Okay.
circle track,
Or
like
just
circle
like
track
just
racing, or-
your average drift event, grassroots
Oh,
drift
okay.
event, or like, you know,
It's nothing like it at all. It's nothing. It's
and why they
the
can't
grip
just have a
levels-
bunch of people come out and just drive, you know, like
yeah. It's because like obviously there's a risk factor. You
mhm.
can get hurt. There needs to be a lot more trust. Because it isn't just like, oh, it's just going to be a couple of us that go. It's like, no, all 20 of you at the same time, write down, you know, because you're supposed to be the cream of the crop, you know, and the people that are in the panel that go through that selection process, you know, like, and I am part of that panel, but I'm not the final say or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like there is people that are all included, but I think what we're trying to do is we're really trying to make an effort to provide a different platform so maybe newer talent can be kind of showcased. Like for instance, like like me and Chelsea had some pretty decent videos at the last one, but if you go look at the 17-year-old Jacob Duncan, he stole the show.
Yep.
Like that kid stole the show, you know, and that dude has, well, just if you, for the people that know, if you go watch his line and you go watch his downhill, like no one was doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Like no one was dragging their testicles the way this kid was, you know, like for serious. And like it's cool because like you would never have seen that unless that happened. So like we do invite people that we know are good, and that's how it's been the first couple of events. But I think we're really making strides to really dig deep and kind of find, like I said before, those pro guys or pro level guys in the grassroots, and kind of provide them a place like, yo, if you're gonna make a name for yourself, like, you know, as long as they have everything that qualifies and, you know, all that stuff, like they're on there. And obviously we're gonna have some pro guys that come by and stuff, like, because I think it's only right.
Yeah, obviously.
But it is very scary. It is very dangerous. I have been scared every single time that I've gone, because they're not my cars. So, like, you know, so like when I took that pro comp beast of a car on the mountain, like I didn't really think about like, yo, if you crash this car, this is a really expensive bill.
Yeah.
But like after on the way home, I'm like, I'm an idiot, dude. Like, Jesus Christ, like this is
doing like 70 miles an hour down.
well, the fastest we went, Chelsea told me he was like, it was 100. We got like 99.
Wow.
Jeez.
And I was like, and we were fourth gear full tilt.
Yeah.
And I was so wrapped up in the moment. I was so happy. He had to bring me down. He was like, yo, just so you know, you're going fucking fast, bro.
Yeah.
So
and
big ups to him for telling me that, because you recheck yourself, because then you can get lost in it. You know, all
Yeah.
this power, you think you're invincible, and then I almost went off. So yeah, we were going way too fast. It was really scary, and that's why we're so strict on how we make that selection. Because like, dude, if it was up to me, there was a whole slew of my friends that I'd want on here, but I don't want you to get hurt.
Right.
You know, and
I
if
mean,
you
and the
get
crashes
hurt,
that do happen are serious.
yeah, and luckily we haven't had any crazy incidents or anything
Yeah.
like that. Like, but like, dude, we can only control so much, and if you know, if Lady Luck decides to not be on our side that day, everything's gone.
Trees don't move.
Yeah, those don't move. Nothing moves. The mountain always wins. So
Yeah.
trust me, I feel for people, and I know, because I used to be that younger person pleading with someone to let me in this event, blah blah blah. And now I know what it feels like to be like, you're just not ready, you know, or like you're good, but like you're gonna die. And we've had people that have come on the mountain, we see them drive, and then we have a meeting afterwards, and we're like, yeah, probably not.
Damn.
You know, because they do good, and then they freeze up, and you see them freeze up too much, and you're like,
You can't do that. Like that's how you get people hurt.
yeah. And yeah, obviously we don't call them out. They just don't get invited back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Unless we see something of an improvement or something,
yeah.
or, you know. But if you freeze on the mountain at the wrong time, like that's not good.
Yeah.
No.
100%.
You know? And it hasn't happened a lot. I'm not calling anybody out. It hasn't,
right.
but it has happened, and where you're just like, man, come on, like, keep it together.
100%. There's another question here from Malik. Which drivers are you most excited to see improve this season? I guess in Formula Drift. Is there anyone that you're like, you saw either a lot of progress last year, or there? Obviously, you can't say you have a favorite or anything like that, but like,
no, I really feel like I would have loved to see what Simon would have done.
Yeah. With one more year in that S14.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of it.
Yeah.
Ben Hobson.
With a car that, car that was like all there.
You know, and I know a lot of them. You know.
100%. Well,
like even Jeff Jones was doing some stuff where I'm like, man, that dude's stepping it up. Like everyone.
Yeah, he really is. Yeah.
You know what it is? I mean, you guys, if you guys are at, you know, you guys see the practice. Practice is where it's at. Like these dudes are doing stuff. In practice, you get to see that everyone out there is an absolute ripper.
Yep.
Like even Robert Thorne, when he pulled a backy, like I don't know why people think I don't dock for people. If you do it right and you're on the right line, and it was gangster as hell,
and
you hold the inertia, and
momentum.
you're not weaving the front wheels, like that shit's riding. but no one does it in FD because you have a 10% chance of pulling it off.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, but Robert Thorne, he pulled it off at St. Louis against Forsberg. I wasn't judging, I was watching,
Yeah.
and it was the coolest thing in the world. He lost, so that's why no one talks about it, but it happened.
Oh yeah.
You know, so that would have been cool to see, and like, you know, it happened. It was cool as hell. I was
He
like,
fucked
damn,
up in the
like,
last
we
zone,
got
though,
him,
I
bro.
think.
Like, but you lost.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know, like
he's such a unique case too of a driver. You talk to him, he's not a drifter. Like as like
no,
as a
that
persona.
dude is that dude is not. I mean, I don't mean that in a negative
Right,
way
but
at
you
all.
get what I'm saying. Like he is a road racer through and through, and then he
Yeah.
jumps in with all these kids that are drifters, and it's just like total
That's what it
culture
is.
culture shock.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's who else? I mean, all of them. So,
we get a new kid this year, Ferris, who's coming in, another big
well,
road
yeah.
race guy.
but he'll go through his
Oh,
adjustment
yeah.
and stuff. He may have his moments, but there'll be something he trips on. Like
Oh yeah,
everybody trips on some. I mean, Connor. I mean, I'm excited to see Jack to see how he adapts if he comes through. I don't
Yeah.
know if that's a thing or not.
hmm
Connor as well. All of them. I don't know. It's because I know a lot of those dudes, and like I've
Mhm.
either hung out with them or something like that. Like even
100%.
Rad Dan, like he was figuring out his transitions in Seattle that we
Yeah.
talked about, and
Well, he's
Like-
actually able to change his car this year. He's putting rear.
yeah.
So that's actually kind of cool to. I'm curious to see if the car drives different because I feel like he's had to drive it a certain way to make it work. So
Right.
I'm curious if if the car looks different when he drives.
So
it.
I don't know. I've never driven one of them, so I don't know.
Yeah.
At least one of those chassis, but like
He said it tows out when it squats, without the Wise
yeah.
Fab, and now
Yeah,
with the
that's
Wise
no
Fab it
bueno.
won't do that. So I
So,
feel
I
like
mean,
that's a
it'd be-
pretty big change. I feel like.
it'd be interesting to see that. I keep on hearing a rumor about Die.
Daigo.
Oh,
Yeah. I don't know if that's like so. That'd be rad to see. Like as
Yeah.
long as he ain't
Damn.
chopping the line, because I'm chopping his score.
Calling him out already.
Like yo, for real, like yo, it
Yeah.
was cool back then. It's not back then no more. You know what I mean?
He was
And I
like
know
one
he's
of the
capable
first
of
ones
not.
with 1,000 horsepower.
Yeah. I'm gonna be like, yeah. If he does, I'm gonna be like, listen, bro, that don't, nah, like don't.
Yeah.
You're not bringing that back, because he started that wave of cutting the line like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like, oh, proximity, and I'm like, all right, I get it,
Right. Yeah.
I get it,
Oh.
but no, you know.
100%. One more question from the chat here. I'm gonna grab, and then we get to our final question. TSH Auto, it's getting harder and harder to get into Formula Drift to drive. I guess that's more of a statement, because I know he's working on trying to get a car into FD. No, I mean I agree. It's definitely. I would still say getting into Formula Drift is still the easiest motorsport to get into the top level of motorsport, hands down, and it's not even close if you compare it to other motorsports. But in terms of like, yes, obviously, it has gotten just that much more competitive to get into Formula Drift, into the Pro Spec Series even, and I think that's a good thing. You know?
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. I think it's again, with the growth of a sport, it's going to make things harder. So that is one of the pros and cons of that.
Yeah.
So do I think it was no, I can't even say that. I was gonna say, do I think it's easier before? Maybe based off of numbers.
Yeah.
But our education is nowhere near where it is
Right.
right now currently. But hey, listen, every sport started out pretty small, and then it eventually the budget starts to grow and grow and grow. And there's a lot of people that want drifting to be, the max of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that means, and that type of format is going to dictate that you're going to have a lot more money to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that the demographic that's available to do that is going to be a lot smaller.
100%.
Could that happen? Sure. Are we on the trajectory for that? Yeah, I guess, because every time it gets more expensive and more expensive to do. So I do sympathize with people that do it.
Yeah.
But I think the best way to go about it right now, like think about it this way. Say if you're like some dude from wherever coast you're at, wherever you're at, and
Yeah.
you just for 2 years you just go to every competition and just dominate.
Yeah.
Like, you don't do a series, but like you go to this pro-am and you win, and you go to that pro-am and you win around, and you go to this and you win. If you do enough of that, I almost feel like that does way better for you if you know how to kind of deliver that story than you doing the traditional, I'm going to go get a pro-am license.
100%.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
Because like then you're getting content, you're doing all this other stuff, which, hey man, that's just what you got to do. And if you don't got the money to pay someone to do that, then you got to do it yourself. You know, just like you got to change tires, you know, and it's not like this is anything new. Again, we go back to skateboarding. Again, we go back to snowboarding. Any one of those dudes can do all that stuff, but if they don't have a what, no one sees it, a media guy.
100%.
So like that format has been the same, even from stuff that has nothing to do with drifting. So this isn't different.
100%.
You know, I will say, arguably, Russo and all of the impact he's had on media has helped me tremendously.
Yeah.
You know, because that's the one that delivers it. So like, if you really want to do competition drifting, don't just win one series. Like,
100%.
because like if you don't think we're looking to see how many people competed in a round, and let's say it's only 10 of you and you won, like, did you really win?
Right.
Just showed up.
Like, we go look for that.
showed up.
At least I do. I'm like, yo, I beat everyone. You beat like 4 people.
Yeah,
Right.
and 3 of them had their cars broken.
You didn't win. You
Yeah.
know, you just got lucky. But if you, let's say you have one of those, but then you go to like a gambler, and then you decide to go to like something in South Carolina, and then you switch up your car if somehow you have the ability, and then you go to Knuckle Up, and then you go to Drift Indy, or you go to US Drift, or you go cross country, and you decide to do the ultimate drift stuff, and then you go do, but let's say you go to all of those different things and you win, and you just keep on collecting these podiums, whether it's like first, second, or place, I guarantee you that will do more for your career than you just doing one series.
100%.
In my opinion.
That's like
Because
you
at
look-
the end
you
of the
look at
day,
Graham
no
and
one else is
Connor.
doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, who else is doing that? You know, the last person do you guys know who was the one Pro-Am driver that won the US Drift Championship and the MDU Championship all in the same year?
Oof,
No, was it
Dirk?
Andrew Lewis?
It was Jeff Stoneback.
Stoneback.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yo, how gangster was that? How are you not going to give this dude a pro license? He just
Yeah.
won a championship at MDU, which is the Midwest at the
Yep.
time. And then he won the championship at US Drift. And these were both series where you had to travel to do. Not like,
100%,
oh, I'm just going to go to the same racetrack. So you can budget. We had to go budget different states. That's what Stoneback had to do. That's what
Sure.
Dan Savage had to do. That's what Austin Meeks had to do. That's what all these dudes had to do. Like, you know, he had to do that.
100%.
And I feel like that better prepares you. So for you to mimic that type of format where you're like, I'm going to go here, then I'm going to drive 10 hours here. Like, I think that'll do way more to prepare you for what it's really going to be like.
Yep.
Than you just going to like one. And I'm not saying like the Pro-Am series aren't doing their job. I get it. They're doing their job. And some people can't afford to do what I'm saying. But if we're talking about what can I do to really maximize my time as not being a pro, I think you should go do that. And you should mix in some of the other drifting events with it too, because that just helps you and your platform.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%. No, I agree. It's a hard thing to do financially, but man, it's so worth it. Like, there's so many guys who I've talked to that did their stint in FD, get out, and then go do a bunch of grassroots stuff and get substantially better. And if they would have just done that first and then gone to FD, I think their career might have changed a lot.
Their social media
Yeah.
pops off. Their driving does better.
Yeah.
Like everything. Like it
Yeah.
does. It goes hand in hand with itself.
It
Yeah.
can't just be the driving. It can't just be like, oh, I need a car with 600,
Yeah.
700. That can't,
Yeah.
that's not it. That's
Yeah.
if you're just doing it like for yourself. But like, I mean, yo, look at Chelsea. Chelsea did XDC for 2 years, won the championship twice or whatever, and then he went and did FD.
Yep.
So like the people are like, and yeah, they're like, well, there isn't a series. I just told you what you need to do. Go to this event, win. Go to this event,
And people
win.
will point out,
Because
like,
if anybody comes up next year and they have like 10 fucking trophies from different areas of across the country that they won, you mean tell me you're not going to respect that dude's game?
right.
Yeah.
And you bring up a guy like Robert Thorne, who by his 10th drift event, he was drifting in Long Beach. You also realize he had his entire life, he was behind a race car. So it's not like he just got there on just by doing it. He also was practicing. No, it's a different type of practice. But again, he was driving all his life. So
Yeah.
it takes time, and people, it's hard to stress because it's like everyone wants to get to FD as fast as possible, it seems like. But you will have better outcomes and a better time if you take your time and hone your skills and making sure you're mopping up whatever series is around you multiple times, just to prove to obviously yourself, to everyone else, because you're gonna have a better time doing that instead of just going as soon as you get your license, first year, boom, go. It's like it's hard to tell people that, but it is the reality. But we are at the point till we get our last question out. Now, you've had a very different relationship than most of the people we've had on with this guy, and we always ask about Andy Luck. Do you have any Andy Luck stories? Because he is the we've had a lot of drivers on, so that you can legally tell us. That is the first stipulation. But
No, I can't really say that I've had any crazy Andy Luck story other than when I was part of RTR. When I was part of RTR, like, he was just always yelling at us. Like,
I mean,
"You
come
fucking
on.
RTR dudes and blah blah blah." He just like, we were just like the hurricane that would come in, and like cars would like have issues or whatever, or they would get into a wreck and just throwing it all apart, and it was just like, so he was always just yelling at us, and like that's what I remember. He was always like that. But then I got to see the nice side of him, and then I became a gray shirt. And then he just really respects that. He respects my attitude, and he respects like how I stand my ground and stuff like that. And like that was really cool to hear from Andy. Yeah, I didn't expect that. I thought he like.
Yeah, don't worry, he'll cut you back down.
For sure. I walk that line pretty, like, I goof around in there, but I respect all those dudes. Like, they created such a great company and everything like that. But it was cool to kind of see Andy be really nice and warm and fuzzy, and like you get to see him with his family and stuff and everything. You go out to
100%.
dinner, so I get to see a really cool side of Andy. But what's cool is that when he needs to turn it on and tell you to fuck off, like, he'll turn it on just like that.
He loves it, yeah.
And I love it. I'm like, dude. Like, I'm instigated now. I'm like, yeah, dude, we just saw someone, and then he goes out there and like, oh, and I'm like, sick.
Oh yeah, there's been multiple times where I see somebody that I don't recognize on the media field, and I'll like message someone, and here comes Andy coming over. I'm like, fuck, it's not even Wong that's coming over.
Yeah.
It's the big boss.
That's when you start hitting everyone like, yo,
check this out.
It's so
pretty
true,
much drags you out by your ear and then gives you a whole new ass reaming.
Nah, he's awesome. He's an awesome dude. I've had a lot of good talks with him, and
100%.
He's a really just an amazing, everyone over there. But Andy's definitely he knows how to work that character for sure, and gets good results for it.
100%. Well, we are hitting the 2-hour mark, so obviously I don't want to take up your entire night, but I want to thank you obviously for calling. We've been friends for a long time, but like, it's cool to see just how you've grown even since I've known you, and what you're doing now. Like you said, all of the cool things you now get to do because of a sport that you like to drive, Yeah,
I mean, you were an inspiration for me, just going back from just Club Loose, starting media, and I was like, this guy's got a cool car. I'm like, that's really photogenic. And that's when like I started dialing my shit in, and like I'm meeting Russo at like the same events, it's like, so yeah, you've definitely inspired a lot of people driving, even on the media field, so.
Awesome. That's I never heard that before, so that's awesome to hear. So I really appreciate that.
It's like, awesome. I usually drive big piles of shit anyway, so it's like
no, it's good to have that, and it's I don't know when the transition happened when I became like the old head, but it happened, and I'm really good. I'm really happy that I do get to kind of pass the knowledge, and I'm glad that the culture understands that. My smart comebacks and my humor and my attitude is just a part of who I am. But at the end of the day, like, I love the drifting community. It has given so much to me. And like I said, if you would have told me when I was a teenager in high school that this is what I'd be doing, like, I didn't even like cars back then. So, like, so it's awesome. And I'm happy to have that influence and pass the joy of drifting on to as many people as I can.
Awesome. Well, like I said, thank you for coming on, man. Is there I mean, what's the best way? Obviously, shout out your socials, but like tell people just another quick spiel on the school, cuz like I can't praise it enough. I loved when I did it, and like I learned so much when I did it too.
Yeah, my buddy just texted me. He's like, I think I'm gonna sign up for a practice day with Reese. I was like, honestly, dude, I'm like, yeah, I know you know how to drive, but I was like, you've never driven that type of car before, so like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, on Instagram, it's Drift School Evergreen, and the website is driftschoolevergreen.com.
Yep.
It's in Drums, Pennsylvania, and it's pretty the best way to find information about the school and everything that's to do with it. If you look on the videos, those are all actual students that are taking the classes and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So I like to be very transparent when it comes to that. And then for myself, it's just Reese Marin on Instagram. If anything, also follow Cool Cat Motorsports as well too, because like the reason I'm able to do all that cool stuff is because like they provide those gnarly cars for me to go drive. Like I have an arrive and drive, and it's sick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's
I can't praise that dude enough that I get to do all that stuff. So
Mhm.
definitely show him some love and go follow Cool Cat Motorsports, because like he don't have to do that stuff, like
100%.
at all. So
Yeah.
it's cool that I get to have fun and put a show on for everyone, and I'm happy everybody enjoys it.
No, Ed's such a cool guy. Herbie and Brandon, what do you guys got going on?
Chilling.
Chilling.
I got VDC this weekend.
What track?
Saturday. It's Pittsburgh International Raceplex, I think is what it's called. Pittsburgh. So the roller coaster. But yeah, if anyone's interested, it's going to be at 11:30 a.m. on Saturday. Virtual Drift Championship.
Nice.
So I'll be cool.
Eastern time,
Yeah.
right?
And Brandon, I
Time.
love your content too, dude. Your
Thank you.
content's
I appreciate it. That means
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, you're
Oh,
doing
yeah.
a good job.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, you definitely are another one that is a little untethered. You just call it how it is. You speak
Yeah.
your beliefs.
He sure
I'm
does.
just saying.
I was like, I'm like, boys, we gotta come correct. Brandon's serious. Like, write this dude's name down. Like,
Yeah.
That's great.
I forget. It was like after one of the videos that he uploaded. I'm pretty sure you messaged me like asking, was that too harsh or something? Like,
nah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
The world needs more of that. The world needs more. It's fine.
It's true. Though.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
No,
Nothing's better than someone being straightforward and transparent. Like, we're all adults, so like everybody that makes
Yeah.
videos, like it's your God-given right. Let it
100%.
ride. Let it ride.
I respect it. I appreciate it. Always appreciated your straightforward, no BS. The way we've had some good times doing that. But again, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for all the comments and questions you guys have asked. It's been actually a really fun show, gone in all kinds of different directions. And if you guys liked it, be sure to like and subscribe and do all that kind of cool stuff. But check out these guys as well, because they're the guys that help make the show run. And next week we have a couple other veterans from FD coming on as well.
Who you got?
Well, I gotta
Oh, no, you can't say it.
verify things, but
My bad.
one of them might start with J and end with P, so we'll see. But we'll see. And then other than that, like obviously the show's every Tuesday, Thursday, so it's like we're pumping out content. We got content coming out just raw footage also on the channel. So like it's been super busy, and it's great to see everyone getting even involved in some of the clips and stuff. Like a lot of people didn't know about the super thing from Rad Dan, so that people are learning about that. Like it's just cool to be able to get that sport out there just as much as everyone else. And I see Jacob in the chat there. It's great to see you, buddy. Out here lying about me, saying I don't answer calls and stuff. It's okay. I get you. But yeah, no, it's again, like I said, thank you everyone for coming on.